Okay, so I'm gonna show you the method that I used in the past to do drop downs. If you find a better way to do it, then that's great, and certainly share that with me. But anyway, this is the easiest way that I found to do it. So this is just one of my apps that I'm playing around with, so you just ignore all that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a collection for my first drop down, and I'm just going to call it dropdown 1 just for reference. I'm going to create that, and then I'm going to add a field, and I'm going to set it as content value, and I will set that as a string. Okay. And then I'm going to create another collection. It's like I'm not. Let's scoot that down some. There we go. Okay. I'm going to create another collection here, and I'm going to call it dropdown 2. Oops. And then I'm going to set content value here. It's a string. And then I'm going to set a reference field. That will be, well, shoot. Okay, sorry about that. I'm having to readjust my screen size here. I'm going to set a reference field. Now, you can do document referencing, things like that. But I find this is a little bit easier, especially for just drop downs and things like that. This is just kind of straightforward, in my opinion, especially if you are pre-filling the data on the back end for these drop downs. So I'm going to set another field, and just for ease of keeping track of it, I'm going to set it as dropdown 1 ref for reference. I'm going to set that as a string. Okay, so we have these two. We have dropdown 2, we have dropdown 1. And I'm going to go back to dropdown 1, and I'm going to open up my manage content panel. And scroll down here. I'm going to click on dropdown 1. Oh, looks like it's already filled in for some reason. Let me delete that so that we can start from here. So I'm under dropdown 1. I'm going to add a document to it, and we're going to use the reference that we talked about on the phone. I'm going to do male, and then I'll set another one as female. All right, and then I'm going to go to dropdown 2. I'm going to add some male names. I'll add John, and then in the dropdown 1 underscore reference, I'm going to put male. Sam, male. And then we'll do a couple of females. Okay, so now we have our 2 drop-down collections created, and we have a reference point in drop-down 2 so that we can filter the second drop-down based off of what is selected from drop-down 1. All right, so we'll go back in here to our builder. Now, since I added a couple of new collections, I need to double check my permissions, or my rules, my Firestore rules, make sure that they are set correctly. Otherwise, the drop downs will just give you a loading icon because the rules aren't set. And obviously, you can change this to authenticated, so only somebody that's logged in can see it, or you can just leave it as everyone, which is what I'm going to do for this. And I need to deploy these rules since I added those collections. Okay, so now that's done, taking care of that. now I'm going to go to the page that I set up for doing this. It's my test drop down. So I'm just going to grab a drop down. Oops, wrong spot. Over here. Grab a drop down field. Put it in there. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so this is going to be drop down 1, so I'm going to set its tag up here as drop down 1 just so I have a good reference point for it. So first thing I'm going to do for drop down 1 is I'm going to do a backend query. And I'm going to query a collection, and I want to query drop down 1. And I want to set query type to list of documents. Now you can order by, so you can sort how it's displayed, increasing, decreasing, but I'm not going to worry about that. You can play around with all that stuff. So anyway, I'm querying the drop down 1 collection list of documents, confirm. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into the properties for that drop down, and I need to set the options that will display. So you can define them here by typing them in, but the problem with that is that if you ever wanted to change these options, you would have to deploy a new build of your app every time you wanted to change them. So you don't want to do that. Exit that out. You want to set the options from a variable. Here's the query that I made. I'm going to click on that. I want to map list items. I'm going to click on this red box, and I'm going to select content value because that's where my male and female values are. Confirm, confirm. Okay. And then if you want to, you can change that to say whatever it is. Please select is what it says right now. All right, so now we need to do another drop down. Let's give it some space here. And we're going to query the second collection. Query drop down 2. List of documents. Now, drop down 2. Let me set this to drop down 2. We need to filter because we want the content that's displayed to the end user to be based off of what was selected in drop down 1. We're going to do a filter, and we're going to select drop down 1 reference. We want to select equal to from variable widget state drop down 1. Okay. So now, if I were to select male, this should show me my male names. If I select female, this should show me my female names. If you want to go a step further and hide the second drop down until they make a selection in the first drop down, you do that by selecting drop down 2, go to the properties, click on conditional visibility. I'm going to set it. I'm going to set it to a condition. First value is going to be your drop down 2, or I'm sorry, is drop down 1. I apologize. Choose drop down 1 is set and not empty. Okay, so now drop down 2 will not be visible until somebody makes a selection from drop down 1. Okay, so that is all taken care of. So now I'm gonna run a test on my build here, and this takes a few minutes. So I'll stop the video here, and then I'll pick back up when it's done.